What can we take from the Wild's performance in the Winter Classic? Plus, what are some of the big storylines to watch as 2022 unfolds? We take a look at that and more today on Locked on Wild.
You're Locked on Wild, your daily podcast on the Minnesota Wild, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another episode of Locked on Wild, your daily Minnesota Wild podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you for making Locked on Wild your first listen every day. And just as a reminder, Locked on Wild is free. We are available everywhere. We are available anytime you want to listen. On today's episode of Locked on Wild, we recap the Winter Classic with Alex Micheletti and look ahead to some 2022 goals for the Minnesota Wild as the schedule continues to deal with postponements and moves to 2022. My name is Seth Topal, host of Locked on Wild, veteran Minnesota sports content producer with experience covering all of our favorite Minnesota sports teams, and now covering the Minnesota Wild here with Locked on Wild, and joined by our Monday co-host, Alex Micheletti, for a hashtag Micheletti Monday. Alex, happy 2022. We finally got the Winter Classic, and unfortunately for the Wild, not able to get a win, but some interesting reaction to what we saw on Saturday that we'll talk about here in a little bit. So hope your 2022 is off to a good start.
Yeah, it's nice. I mean, we're into the third day of it already. So yeah, up and running in 2022, and yeah, ready for the Wild to continue on into the stretch months of the season, and things hopefully will pick up here, and hopefully we can get through all the games, and no Olympics now, so more opportunities to get a lot more games in, and hopefully more excitement to St. Paul.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be a two-pronged approach. We'll see some games made up in February, and then we'll see some added to the end of the season. And so you look at what happened in the Winter Classic. The Wild obviously lost, although don't tell Yahoo Sports that. Yahoo apparently
that was something else.
Had a notification ready to go that the Wild won the Winter Classic, and it's like they didn't though. But thanks for playing. So they lost 6-4, and there was a wide range of reaction to the game. Obviously, it's disappointing that they lost, but the big thing that I pull away from the Winter Classic before we really dive into it is just it's so hard to gauge where this team is at right now, because all the games that they've had in the last 2 weeks, with the exception of the Dallas Stars game, have been postponed. And a lot of them have not been postponed with a huge amount of notice. So the team's getting ready for games and then not having them. Finally had to deal with a little bit of COVID-19 with Jonas Brodin. But I can't get super upset about a team looking rusty in a game in which it was well below zero. And that was the first game that the Wild had played since Dallas. So it had been over a week since they'd played a game. It's just, at this point in the season, it's just such a bizarre part of the schedule with what's been going on.
Yeah, I mean, you got injuries, you got COVID, games canceled, teams can't cross the border. So it's just, it's chaos a little bit. But hopefully, now that they had that little break, hopefully that helped a little bit, get things back on track for the rest of the league. And they should get Jonas Brodin back here very soon. He did test positive again. That's why he wasn't able to play in the Winter Classic. But it sounds like he could be very close. So the team is so much different when he plays compared to when he's not playing, and it's tough. Tough when you got a lot of inexperience playing, and you have guys in roles that they're not used to. I mean, Kulikov was out there on the power play. Just guys not in their normal spots. Hopefully we can get Spurgeon and Eck back very soon too. Because without Eck, the center depth takes a big hit. Yeah, lots of interesting storylines with the team right now.
And, you look at some of the things and silver linings and bright spots. Kirill looked sensational. He looked like he was ready to rock. Had the goal, obviously, on just another Kirill type move, and, continues his recent strong play. And so, it's fun at the very lowest level of this. It's fun to have a player on your team in those types of games that can elevate and can play to that type of moment. As we talked about, though, just obviously didn't lead to a wild win, but still looked really good doing it.
Yeah, I mean, on the goal, just incredible. His lower body strength is just unbelievable, and that's on a guy like Colton Parayko, who's he's gigantic defenseman, and was able to just put it at near the net, and it happened to go off a defenseman, so he'll take that any day of the week. Then on his assist on the Fiala goal, that was an amazing pass. And he had another great pass on the Hartman goal too. So yeah, just a phenomenal game from Kirill, and you knew he was going to bring it. They St. Louis had has some skilled Russians on that team too, so he wanted to show Tarasenko and Barbashev and Buchnevich all about bragging rights for best Russian. Although Tarasenko's line with Kyrou and Thomas was just those guys were just insanely good. Yesterday. So
yeah, and I'm just glad that we didn't have the opportunity to see Jordan Bennington get into a fight, but he did get pretty frustrated near the end because we again saw empty net for almost 8 minutes in the third period. The Wild got 2 goals back. They did not give up an empty netter. And so you look at just how kind of lopsided things were in the second period. That the team never stopped fighting, and they got it close at the end. It's just obviously when you have a period like that in the second, where St. Louis really took control, it's hard to overcome. It's hard to overcome 5 goals in a game, let alone in one period.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit too late. Zuccarello said in the post game, he said the effort for the first 40 minutes was horrible. And he said, fans paid a lot of money to watch us go out and play, and I enjoyed that. He was, he put the accountability on them for not showing up. Just can't do that even under the the conditions that they were under. St. Louis clearly, they talked about wearing the beach wear beforehand and how it brought them together. What a move to pull off. But yeah, I mean, they just they were tentative in the first couple periods, and you can't do that against a team like St. Louis because they get a lead and then they they get pretty defensive. They did get a little lackadaisical in the third, but it's a tough team to come back from for sure when they got that big of a lead.
Yeah, it was just it's one of those types of games, and so I saw a lot of people that were upset with the effort, upset with the results, upset with where the season is headed, and I'm like, you know what? Let's just
chill.
Let's just wait and see. Once we get back to where we're in a normal flow, and if the Wild continue to lose games at that pace, then yeah, I'll raise the alarm bells a little bit. But I just can't do it with 5 games having been postponed over the last couple of weeks, which really made the Wild schedule look just dreadful. I mean, they had the game against the Hurricanes postponed. Then they lost to the Sabres. Then the Panthers game was postponed. Then the Dallas game. Then 2 postponements. Then the Blues game. And now the Senators game. that was supposed to be tonight has been postponed too. So we'll hope that the Wilds can play on the 6th against the Boston Bruins, but just got to ride it out through this. And then once the schedule gets back on track, that's when we can see kind of where things are at.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. And we've seen how good this team can be when they have their full strength of their team. And it doesn't sound like any season-ending type of injuries from the guys that are out right now. And so, thank goodness on that. It sounds like more week to week than anything. So, but when they're full goal, I mean, they've shown that they can beat anybody in the league. So,
Yep.
they've taken down Edmonton, they've taken down Toronto, some highly skilled teams. So, they can do it. They just gotta, just keep on pushing. And everything's not gonna be perfect during a season. You're gonna have a lot of ups and also a lot of downs. So
Yep.
you just kind of have to just ride the wave, like you mentioned.
Yeah, let's just kind of finish discussing the Winter Classic. Then we also have some big news to talk about with Dean Evason and staff getting some big contract extensions. So we'll continue the chat with Alex Micheletti next here on Locked on Wilds. It is 2022, and that means New Year's resolutions are in full swing. No better way for you to get on the healthier path than by grabbing a Built Bar. Built Bar is the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar and maybe even better than a candy bar. Built Bars are covered in 100% real chocolate and contain 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, and right around 17 grams of protein. Compare that to your average candy bar, which usually has right around 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, and dozens of net carbs. If you're looking to get to a healthier you, here's an idea. Go to all those places you have your secret stashes of candy at home, in the pantry, the office, the car. Take all of it, throw it out, and replace them with Built Bars. So when you're craving a snack or treat, you can reach for something that's healthy and tastes incredible. So head to Built.com, use the promo code LOCKED15, and you'll get 15% off of your order. Again, use the promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. Continuing today's episode of Locked on Wild. Again, thank you for making Locked on Wild your first listen every day as we navigate through 2022. Septopol hanging out with Alex Micheletti, Dean Evason with a nice, nifty 3-year extension, which prompted some hilarious reactions from the team, and a pretty interesting story in which Dean did not want to put pen to paper until his staff got matching extensions as well, which I think shows that probably a pretty good fit for the Wild for head coach here for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, what a classy, awesome move by Dean, making sure that everybody got it at the same time. So it's that family atmosphere and cohesiveness and togetherness, and something you really love to see. This is an all in type of leadership group, and you see it from top to bottom, and couldn't ask for a better GM right now for this team, and he's stuck with a guy that he had really no connection with, and so it's turned into quite a great partnership for sure.
My favorite part too was Marcus Foligno, when asked about it, was saying, "Well, yeah, we were looking for some kind of a thank you for getting him into this spot."
Yeah, you gotta love Marcus. He always keeps it light, and just a great locker room guy for sure.
And it seems like with Dean that we're getting a guy that really knows who needs what button pressed to get them going, to get the team clicking to whatever potential they want to see from the guys. And obviously the record speaks for itself. He has just a crazy record so far as Wild head coach. And so, it's a situation where they could have gone a completely different direction when Bruce Boudreau was let go, but ended up going with Dean, and he has not given any indication as to not being the guy for the job.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool. That that he kept or that Dean kept Darby on too. Darby's been a huge pillar in this franchise and been through multiple Wild head coaches now, and so yeah, I'm glad Darby gets that extension too. He's been a huge part of this Wild organization for a long time, so that was pretty cool. And this the staff has done a great job developing players, and you look at a player like Eriksson Ek, who everybody was riding off, being a first round pick, and everybody wanted Brock Besser, and so he's kind of he's been able to elevate his game to being a top line center, a top six center. So they've really developed some guys here too. So yeah, it's definitely fun to watch.
Final thing on the Winter Classic before we move on and just look ahead to some big things for 2022. Any images or any moments from the Winter Classic that stand out to you in particular?
Yeah, I mean, the views were absolutely incredible. The puck drop with all the famous the Twin alums, and seeing Tony Oliva out there was was pretty cool, and Herbeck and Morneau, and of course Joe Mauer. Seeing just the jerseys for both teams, I thought looked great, and I really loved Talbot wearing the toque thing on his head.
Such a flex.
Yeah, it was really cool. And the ice held up for the most part, it looked like, and just it really looked like the fans had a great time too. Even with it being so cold, everybody seemed pretty excited, and Thomas Rhett put on a good show, and so 2 nights in a row for him. So it's they did a fantastic job, the league, and making sure that it went off without any hitches. They didn't have to do any delays. So really thought the league nailed it for sure.
I'm gonna have to ask the 10K guys how they ended up meeting John Hamm.
Yeah, I can't believe John Hamm was just hanging with the Rubes,
Just chilling.
hitting the bars in Minneapolis, and willing to take pictures with literally anybody.
Unbelievable.
What a cool guy. And just your typical Missouri sports, in St. Louis Blues in particular fan. I know he likes the Cardinals too, but it's awesome.
The one thing that I'll take away from it is that promo that the Wild cut for Saturday that was narrated by Lou Nanny. Chills. I listened to it at least 100 times.
Yeah, I mean, the godfather of hockey here in Minnesota. It was they did an amazing job. There's also that the NHL, the league put out the drone video where it was like going through the locker rooms and stuff. That was really cool too, and thought they killed that as well.
Yeah, all in all, a great showcase for the state of hockey. With another big one coming up here in a couple of weeks, that being Hockey Day Minnesota. But a great look at how hockey is done here in the state of Minnesota, and hopefully we get another one soon. Otherwise, would love to just get put in the Stadium Series, get one of those, maybe do one at TCF again. Who knows? Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I mean, they've both been pretty successful. So, I mean, hopefully we don't have to wait another, a long time before we get another event here. So even with the weather, I think the league thought it went pretty well. One thing I would wish the league wouldn't do is schedule games at the exact same time as the Winter Classic. This is supposed to be the marquee event of the league, other than the Stanley Cup playoffs. And you have Hockey Night in Canada game, with the Maple Leafs, one of the most popular teams in the league, going on at the same time as the Winter Classic. So, hopefully maybe they can rethink that in the future. There was also, I was at the St. Cloud State hockey game versus Bemidji State, and they had that game on at the exact same time as the Winter Classic. Mankato and Duluth played at 6 o'clock too. So, that just didn't make any sense. Sometimes, you scratch your head with these leagues. Why would you want to go up and compete against, that when everybody's got eyes are on, or should be on, the Winter Classic?
Yeah, that's bizarre. But
Yeah.
the NHL will do whatever it feels like, and
Yep.
so
Gary
it's not
Bettman and his cronies. So, or
Gary
Penguin,
Bettman.
as we inside joke.
Danny DeVito in
Yes.
Batman Returns.
Yes.
It's a great look-alike. But yeah, that's it was a fun weekend, and hopefully now we can get back towards a more regular schedule. But we'll have to wait and see. With,
Yep.
as mentioned, already having tonight's game postponed against the Ottawa Senators, hoping that on the 6th we can go take on the Boston Bruins. But we'll see. We'll finish up by looking at some things for 2022 for the Minnesota Wild. More to come with Alex Micheletti after this. Final segment of today's episode of Locked On Wild. Again, thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen every day. Alex, looking at 2022 for the Minnesota Wild, obviously you go a little further down the schedule, and the Wild have in March, I think it's 9 straight home games. And so, assuming that they get Jared Spurgeon and Joel Eriksson Ek back here within the next couple of weeks, really seems like if this team is going to need to make some sort of a run here late in the season to get back into a higher seed in the playoffs, it seems like March is going to be the month to do it.
Yeah. I mean, that's put up or shut up time for sure in the league. Every year. That's where you have to really dig deep, and it definitely seems to that play tightens up throughout the league, and you see a lot more low scoring games. Right now, things have been absolutely bonkers. I think just with teams still missing a lot of guys. I think I saw a score today of 7-5 with San Jose and Pittsburgh, and Pittsburgh scored 6 goals in the first period. So I mean, it's just you're seeing a lot of high scoring because I think like you've mentioned, the Wild hadn't played in a while. Teams are dealing with guys still on COVID lists, and you got guys being called up from the AHL that haven't played ever in the NHL. You got goalies that hardly know any of their teammates, and they're getting in to make their debuts, and just not ready for the big stage. And in Canada, some of the teams don't have fans at all. So it's just it's a wild times up on the border there. Just you feel for some of those teams. A team like Montreal just getting ravaged by injuries, and they have no goalies really. So it's just crazy.
Obviously a couple of other big things here for the 2022 portion of the schedule. The trade deadline will be hitting here. I believe it's in March or April, somewhere in there. So obviously if the Wild are still in a position to make the playoffs, going to be looking to try to shore things up a little bit. At this point, do you think it's more likely that the Wild go the trade route, or are we still holding out hope that we'll see the likes of Marco Rossi and Matt Boldy down the stretch?
Well, I mean, they seem very hesitant to call up any of the big name prospects right now, which is a little unfortunate. So I feel like the trade route is more of the approach that Billy is going to go, and center obviously, but maybe even a goalie too. Talbot's hurt right now, and I think maybe they need another goalie for insurance purposes. Just in case Cam gets another injury, because I don't think this team can trust Capo full time yet. So it would be nice to have an added veteran. You can look at a team like Edmonton, how desperate they are for goalies. Stalock goes down, and they don't really have another veteran type of option to help. With Mike Smith continuing to get hurt, and that's an issue for them having a 39-year-old goalie. So you can never have enough goaltending depth, and you can never have enough center depth. So I think those are the two that Billy would focus on for the trade deadline.
Yeah, and you made a good point about Rossi and Boldy in that we'd love to see them come up.
Yeah.
But I think this just speaks to Bill Guerin's plan being for those guys to make a major impact next season.
Yeah.
And while we would like to see this team make a huge run this year and that those guys could help, if that's Bill Guerin's plan, you can't panic. And just if that's the way he wants to do it, stick to it. And we'll see those guys next year. As much as that sucks, it just seems like that's the route we're going to go.
Yeah, I mean, he really wants them to make an instant impact when they're ready. And so, it's nice that they're, that they're developing chemistry together down there. So, hopefully when the time does come for them to make it their debuts in the show, that they rekindle that from their Iowa days. And so, it seems like, it's very frustrating for fans to not see them here. And they're down there for $2 beer nights in the crowd. But, they look the part, which is the most important thing. They do look ready to go. So that's not something that Wild fans are going to have to panic about when they get up here, because I really do think that they'll make an instant impact. I mean, you got both Boldy and Rossi on a point per game type of basis. And, what more can you say about Adam Beckman too? He looked like the real deal when he was up here for the preseason and a couple of the games that he got in up here.
Rumor has it our friend Spoke Z made mention of the fact that Beckman, Boldy, and Rossi played on the same line for Iowa this weekend.
Yeah, it's huge. It's that definitely could be a line of the future for sure, and in the top 6 for the big boys up in St. Paul.
Inject all 3 of them right into the veins.
We are all about that.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's a good spot to leave it here for today. So that will wrap up today's episode of Locked On Wild. Now that your first listen of the day is done, make sure that you head over to the Locked On Bets podcast, your daily one-stop shop for all of your gambling needs. Locked On Bets is hosted by your boy Q with expert analysis and insight from Lee Sterling. Locked On Bets is free and available on all podcast platforms, just like Locked On Wild. We're available anywhere you want to listen, anytime you want to listen. You can also follow us on our social media channels, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. We will continue to keep you up to date on the Minnesota Wild as we move into 2022. So make sure to follow along, because if a puck drops in the state of hockey, Locked On Wild has you covered with new episodes every Monday through Friday as parts of the Locked On Podcast Network.